Now, if there was a small glimmer of hope, it was extinguished on Monday night at Nottingham Forest. 4-3, the final score. A frantic game. Glenn, I'm going to start with you this week. It wasn't to be, but for once, it felt like they gave it a bit of a go.
Yeah, they did. They did give it a go. There was more attacking intensity in that performance on Monday than we've had all season. Basically, there were people flying forward, and we were keeping the ball in their final third, in the final third sort of thing, and looking a threat. We created a couple of chances in the first sort of 20 minutes. Shay Adams had one blocked that he should have taken first time. And then, of course, the first time they punt the ball forward, our defence just dereliction of duty, basically, from mainly, I think it was down Maitland-Niles' side, and Bella-Kotchap in the middle it was just marking space, basically. Good goal straight through the hologram in goal. So that was one that was good, great goal from Forest's point of view. Really, really good break, really incisive play. But we didn't defend it well. And you still think, we've started okay. The team on paper don't look too bad. And then we're 2-0 down with their next attack, which we had 3 or 4 chances to clear. And Bella-Kotchap just gets totally beasted, if you like, by the big centre forward, smashes it in the net, 2-0. And then because it's a game we've got to win, we're screwed. But as with Saints have done all season, they do just enough just to keep you interested. So we get back to 2-1. Again, winning the ball, decent bit of play to tee up Stuart Armstrong to tee up Alcaraz to score. And you think getting at half-time 2-1, and you never know. But then Maitland-Niles takes over again. Bit unfortunate to give away a penalty, but it's it's one of those. I mean, I knew the referee was going to give it. And basically, you can say yes, he's booted his. At the end of the day, he's kicked his foot and he's gone over. But it is unfortunate, and I have sympathy if you try and argue it another way. But I'm not remotely surprised it got given, and of course, it was never going to be overturned. So 3-1 down at half time, and I watched the second half, just sort of laughing at bits of it, really, because we're not going to win from 3-1 down at half time. But again, we did it again. We got a goal back, didn't we? And again, that was the time when we really needed to push on. But before we could do that, we let in another one, and then 4-2, could have been 5-2, but it just seemed like every time Forest attacked, they looked like they were going to score, but neither fullback looked interested in defending. To be honest, thought Walker-Peters had a dreadful game defensively. Lianco was a massive improvement on Bella-Kotchap, which wasn't hard, and Maitland-Niles was just hilarious, both defending and with the ball, playing this. What was it? It was a bit like a tribute act, wasn't it, to Manchester City with the left back turning up in the centre of midfield. But unlike Manchester City, he just found several different ways to give the ball away. It was just atrocious. And what do you know about tribute acts? Most of them are crap. And that's what happened. Master the basics. And that's my one criticism of Ruben Sellers from yesterday, because I didn't think his starting lineup was that bad. It was okay, but trying to overcomplicate things when we can't do the basics is the main thing. We just can't do it. We're our own worst enemy, and getting beat 4-3, I think it flattered us a little bit in the end. So I think Forest were always in control of the game. But yeah, it's just I find it a shame that we're still in. We're still looking at Fulham, the Fulham game, saying, "Oh, we can win this." I just want it to be over. I've just had enough.
You just want the R next to the
name, and I just got to say, fair play to everyone who went up there for that game, because it's a tough thing to do at the moment, going to a place where there can be absolutely zero expectation going into it. So to go up there and watch that, get beat again, travel home, go to work the next day. That's a tough shift on a Monday night. So fair play to everyone who went.
It's a long way to go. Steve, that's 3 times we scored 3 goals and not won a game. It was the lack of quality again that's let us down. We're talking about the same things every week, but it was plain to see. If we'd have scored 4, they'd have scored 5.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for stealing the stat that I was about to use as well. But yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where yeah, I mean, on the face of it, you look at that game and you kind of think, well, actually, I mean, on a given night, actually, you probably win that game. Given the quality of chances that we created, you look at the stats that we had possession in good areas. Forest basically just did us on the break, 3 out of the 4 goals, really. And yeah, it was just infuriating that was exactly how we knew they'd play, and we still fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And I mean, Steve Cooper must have got back into the dressing room at half time, absolutely pissing himself, thinking, how the hell have we managed to mug them off like this? But I mean, in truth, I mean, as I say, we played okay. We were all right for the most part. And it's not a performance like last night that is the reason we're going down. It's all the other ones where.
Yeah, if that was August or September, we'd be all right with that, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
going, okay,
August or September, you take the positives from the game in that created a lot of chances. There was a fair amount of enthusiasm, a good bit of pace to our game for a lot of the time, which I think the conditions helped. Wet weather always makes the game a little bit faster. But yeah, we've got to the point now where the performances really don't matter in the slightest, and results are the only thing. And once again, we've not got the bit that we absolutely needed. As you say, earlier in the season, you can take a defeat like that and say, well, on another day we win that game, and it's not too bad. If we keep playing like that, we'll win more than we lose. But actually, if you defend like we did against basically the second worst team in the league, against the good teams, then you will still lose every game. And that's kind of what we've been doing for the most part when we've been playing under, well, pretty much all 3 managers, really. I think we were probably a little bit more organised under Ralph, but circumstances just didn't fall the right way. And I think in the end, everybody wanted the change. I think probably even Ralph himself by the end of it. But I mean, we're coming now to the end of a season where it's going to be all change again, and it's now a case of when do the board decide they're going to make the announcement? Because clearly there's absolutely no way that Sellers can stay on. I mean, it's noticeable that his song is basically not been sung for the last 3 games. Now that people have finally cottoned on to the kind of disaster that it's turned out to. But yeah, there's a lot of soul searching and a lot of action to be put in place ahead of the summer, because make no bones about it, though, the suits have got a fair amount of work to be getting on with.
Yeah, you'd like to think they've started some of that now. Alfie, you were there yesterday. There was clearly a plan in place because he spoke about it on Friday and we saw it. You know, they started well, they were pressing, they were hassling. But again, they just don't seem to have the players to execute the plans. And it was the same old mistakes again.
Yeah, I think Steve and Glen have touched on the major points. Team selection-wise, I think everyone was pretty happy at 7 o'clock, and then 8:15, everyone was really happy. They were on top for the first 15 minutes. Che Adams was looking pretty lively. I don't think he really touched the ball again after the first 15-20, but he had a couple shots on goal, and you thought, all right, they're there for taking. And like you said, it was just on the break twice, and all of a sudden you're 2-0 down in a game where the atmosphere was phenomenal, by the way. To be fair to them, the City Ground, they have this great song at the start, and Steve Cooper has his own song, which apparently gets every single week as well. And they're a team that's fighting relegation, and they are behind their team, and I think that made it harder for them. But yeah, I think you guys will have seen it obviously more than I will have in the older generation. But how many times are we going to sort of see these interim managers come in? I think Steve actually retweeted something I posted saying, you know, this is just standard for an interim manager to come in, get a couple of results. You know, it was 1 goal conceded in Sellers' first 4 games. I think it's 23 in the 9 that have followed, utter carnage. And yeah, they have created chances. They've created a lot of chances, to be fair. But we spoke to James Ward-Prowse after, and aside from asking him about his future, which, you know, we tried to do and we didn't really get definitive answers because they're not going to. I think the one thing that he said was absolutely clear is that the experience isn't missed necessarily on the pitch. It's just in the dressing room. And he keeps making reference to this. Every time Ward-Prowse comes out for interviews, he keeps making reference to the fact that he really feels like he's lost his guys, I suppose. He thinks that, I don't know whether it's Nathan Redmond or Romeu, whether it's Jack Stevens, Fraser Forster, I imagine is a big part of that as well, being so close. He feels that he's lost his leadership group, his friendship group. And I think he really feels that that's probably the main reason they're in this situation.
It was the first time, Glenn, in about 35 games that we were quite happy with that starting lineup, and the bench was looking decent as well. There were some attacking options as best we have on there. You know, it wasn't a bench packed full of defenders either. So I thought we might nick it. I honestly, when we sat down, I thought this might be all right. We might get a point here.
It's too little, too late. Yes, I agree with you. You know, it's the first time I've looked at the 11 names and thought, oh yeah, I can. I mean, I assumed that Maitland-Niles would be on the right and Walker-Peters on the left.
Yeah.
So, but I actually think it was a positive move to do it the other way around because you've got Walker-Peters attacking is more potent from the right hand side, I guess. I mean, it didn't really turn out that way yesterday, but I think that the starting lineup was decent. I think the first substitution he made when Bella-Kotchap couldn't be bothered anymore. I thought it was better to bring Lianco on than Chileta because he's just a little bit quicker. And I think it would have been a disaster and probably a red card coming Chileta's way if he'd come on against Brennan Johnson. But so yeah, I don't necessarily think yesterday's defeat is too much on Ruben Sellers. It's more on the players just not being aware. I mean, if you look at the first goal, Che Adams gives away a free kick in their left back area. They take the free kick quick. It's 1 pass forward to a guy, I think it's Gibbs White, who's not picked up. He turns around. He's got all the time in the world to put the ball over the top to Johnson. 1 pass, goal. It's just pathetic. It's about 4 or 5 players just not concentrating on what they should be doing. So yeah, I mean, we did play well going forward, and it was nice to see us. You know, Stuart Armstrong's a decent footballer when he's got his mind in the game, sort of thing. Walcott has played reasonably well the last 8-10 games. Having Che Adams back was big for the first sort of 20 minutes, but I do wonder how fit he was. But we've got no one else to replace him with. You know, we've got no one who's of any quality at all to take his place. So, and we saw that in the second half with the round of substitutions at the end. You know, we were dead in the game by then anyway. But you know, when you got Onuachu and Adam Armstrong coming on, you kind of know the game's up, sort of thing, don't you? So, so yeah, not too many complaints from that point of view. But the damage has been done, and why? There seems to be a realization now that he had to let the handbrake off because we needed to win all 4 games. The time to let the handbrake off was 2 months, 3 months ago. But you know, he won those couple of games against Chelsea and Leicester by, you know, being positive in the first half and then defending the hell out of it. We seem to have moved away from that from so many games, and we've been trying to win it in the second half. I don't understand it. There's been too many random selections along the way. You know, like Joe Aribo getting a game, and which is still amazing. You know,
was he even on the bench? Was he even on the bench last night?
He was there, but he wasn't on the bench.
Yeah.
He was there. Yeah. They're
So,
bringing him along to watch.
So it struck me a little bit as like a guy playing Football Manager and just chucking things in just to see if they work, sort of thing, without any real plan. So, but I thought, you know, if we'd have played yesterday's team for the last sort of 10 games, maybe we'd have got a few more points. But it's just infuriating looking at the rubbish that's down the bottom of the league and how easy someone's going to stay up with probably 32 points. And there's so many poor teams this season, not just the bottom 5. You know, when you can look at some of the teams between sort of 10th and 16th or whatever, there's so many poor teams, and it really wouldn't have been that difficult to get another 3 wins, you would have thought, to give us a chance of staying up. But yeah, too little, too late yesterday, I'm afraid.
Just a word, Steve, on Bella-Kotchap. I know he left the ground on crutches afterwards. Questions about his application. It just feels to me that maybe, is he not right for the Premier League just yet? Is it a bit too early? Was he expecting to play as many games, or do you think his head's been turned post-World Cup?
No, I don't think so, because, I mean, who is going to sign a player whose injury record is such that he's now been subbed off injured in 4 first halves in the season? I mean, that must be unprecedented. And I think we can all see that the raw materials are there.
Yeah.
He's largely good in the air, apart from the occasional moments where he turns fairly weak, as he did a little bit last night. He's pretty quick on the ground, apart from times where he stumbles over his own feet and injures himself, like he did last night. He's reasonable with the ball at his feet. Like we saw at the start of the season, he was making these marauding runs through the midfield and taking a pot shot. I think it was against Leeds, wasn't it, where he took a pot shot from 35 yards and put it just wide. And you think, oh well, we've got something here. And he was obviously being looked at earlier in the season. Hence, he got his Germany call up. Although, I mean, arguably that possibly says a lot more about the quality of German defenders at the moment. That he's already in the senior national team setup. But yeah, I think there's raw materials to work with there. But ultimately, I don't think he played that many. He'd only played probably a dozen games or so for Bochum last season. So as a result, he's not conditioned to be playing a 40 odd game season. And some people adapt to it really quickly. Others unfortunately don't. And I mean, he's been a little bit unlucky in that a couple of his injuries have been sort of dislocated shoulders, which, I mean, doesn't matter how fit you are, that can happen if you land on the wrong area. But the sort of muscle injuries and the sort of fitness and stamina issues that seem to have been hinted at from Ruben Sellers in a couple of press conferences and things like that. Yeah, I mean that's the sort of thing that is going to put other teams off signing him. Which, I mean, I guess there's a charitable way of looking at that, in that it's a positive for us, in that we'll keep a player who's been highly rated at various stages of the season. But I mean, he'll need to step up another notch if he's going to go a 46 game league campaign in the Championship next season.
Is some of this on players like Salisu to a certain extent, Alfie? Because if I think back to that first game of the season, it was Bednarek and Salisu, I think, were the 2 centre-backs. And you kind of go, all right, well, maybe that's the plan. And then Bella-Kotchap was always going to be like on the bench, or just a player that came in when we needed him. So when you've got players like that are injured and aren't around and have seemingly checked out, you know, some of this I think has got to be on him, because players like Salisu they've been playing well and they should be in the team anyway. So the fact that we're even debating Bella-Kotchap and how we got turned twice for the goals yesterday, just part of it just doesn't sit easily with me.
I suppose you say that, but I think when you go back to that game against Tottenham in August, I think actually we were all very surprised that Bella-Kotchap was on the bench, and we sort of hounded Ralph Hasenhüttl for a little bit, because he played every game of pre-season, didn't he? And he was good in pre-season as well.
I mean, Gineppo was wing back that game, wasn't he? So maybe we'll take it with a pinch of salt.
But you're right. Look, we don't know what exactly is going on with Salisu. When Ruben Sellers is asked, he's how can he have an opinion on an injured player? He's an injured player. I can't assess his attitude. He's injured, which is, you know, it's a brilliant diversion. It's a really good way to not answer that question. But yeah, I think it's more about the strategy, I guess, isn't it? They've signed these really good players, and I think a lot of them, if not all of them, have broken down at some point in the season. You know, Bella-Kotchap over and over again. Obviously, Romeo Lavia for quite a definitive period, and a period that probably cost Ralph his job. And Juan Larios won't play again this season. We've seen what happened to Tino with 2 different knee injuries. So these young guys, yeah, it's clearly difficult, isn't it, to play a 38-game season? Like Steve says, they've got to do it for 8 more games next season in the Championship. However, I think there's a good squad there. I do believe there's a good squad there, even with the maybe 9 or 10 players that will leave, 6 of those being players that will leave because they're good, and 4 being players that will leave because they're not good. And then maybe even a couple more that will leave to Europe, like Orsic, Onuachu, maybe they'll leave as well. I still think there's a good squad there. I still think there's plenty there. And yeah, Glenn's just put a message into the chat. Remember who played? It was Jan Valery, wasn't it? It was Jan Valery who started that game.
Yes, of course.
Which is a mental decision, of course, when you look back at it. But yeah,